Hello everyone, and welcome back to Life Sanctuary. It is so good to have you here with us today. We live in a world that is obsessed with the new. New phones, new apps, new trends. But sometimes, in our rush to embrace the future, we forget to respect the past. Today's story is about the value of experience. It is a reminder that you can buy the latest technology, but you cannot buy wisdom. It is the story of an arrogant young boss who thought he could replace a lifetime of skill with a digital manual, and the expensive lesson he learned. Before we start this satisfying tale of justice, I have a small favor to ask. If you believe that our elders deserve respect and that experience is the best teacher, please take a moment to click the subscribe button and like this video. It helps us share these important stories with the world. Now, let us enter the noisy, busy floor of the Titan Steel Factory. The Titan Steel Factory was a beast of a building. It was hot, it smelled of oil and metal, and it was loud. In the center of the factory stood Bertha. Bertha was a massive, complex machine that had been the heart of the production line for 40 years. She was loud, temperamental, and absolutely essential. Standing next to Bertha was Frank. Frank was 68 years old. He wore blue coveralls that were stained with grease, and his hands were rough and scarred. Frank had been working at Titan Steel since the day the doors opened. He didn't use a computer to diagnose Bertha. He used his ears. He could tell if a valve was loose just by the rhythm of the piston. He could tell if the oil was low just by the smell of the exhaust. But things were changing at Titan Steel. The old owner had retired, and corporate headquarters had sent a new factory manager. His name was Kyle. Kyle was 29 years old. He had a shiny MBA degree from a top university, a tailored suit that cost more than Frank's car, and a brand new tablet that he never put down. Kyle hated the factory floor. He thought it was dirty and inefficient. He walked through the aisles, wrinkling his nose, looking at graphs on his screen. He stopped in front of Frank. Frank was writing some numbers in a small, tattered leather notebook. "Frank," Kyle said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Why are you writing in that diary?" Frank looked up, adjusting his safety glasses. "It is my logbook, sir," Frank said. "I am tracking the pressure variance on the main turbine." "We have digital sensors for that," Kyle snapped. "Why aren't you using the tablet I issued you?" "We need real-time data uploaded to the cloud." "The sensors are slow," Frank replied calmly. "And Bertha, she doesn't like the cloud. She needs a human touch. I can feel the vibration before the sensors pick it up." Kyle laughed. It was a cold, dismissive laugh. "This is the 21st century, Frank," Kyle said. "We don't run a multi-million-dollar company on feelings and vibrations. We run it on data." Kyle looked at his assistant and whispered loudly enough for Frank to hear. "He is a dinosaur. Put him at the top of the restructuring list." 2 days later, Frank was called into Kyle's glass-walled office. The air conditioning was set to freezing. Kyle didn't even offer Frank a seat. "Frank," Kyle said, not looking up from his computer, "I have looked at the numbers. Your salary is too high." "I have been here 35 years, Frank said. "I know this plant better than anyone." "That is the problem," Kyle said, finally looking up with a smirk. You are obsolete. Just like that old machine out there. For what I pay you, I could install 5 automated kiosks. Or hire 3 fresh graduates who actually know how to use PDF files. You are making a mistake, Frank said, his voice steady. Bertha is a tricky machine. If I go, who is going to listen to her? We have the instruction manuals. Kyle waved his hand dismissively. It is just a machine, Frank. It is not a pet. Anyone can run it. Kyle slid a paper across the desk. You are fired, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Frank looked at the paper. Then he looked at Kyle. He didn't yell. He didn't beg. He simply nodded, picked up his old leather notebook, and put it in his pocket. Good luck, Kyle, Frank said. You are going to need it. Frank walked out of the factory, his head held high. The other workers watched him go with sadness in their eyes. They knew what Kyle didn't know. They knew Frank was the only thing keeping the factory running. The next day, the factory was running smoothly. Kyle stood on the catwalk, looking down at the floor, feeling very proud of himself. See? Kyle boasted to his assistant. We got rid of the expensive old man, and everything is fine. I am a genius. But at exactly 12:30 in the afternoon, the genius was proven wrong. It started with a low rumble. Then, a high-pitched screech echoed through the hall. And then, silence. Bertha, the massive machine, ground to a halt. The conveyor belt stopped. The lights flickered. A red siren began to spin, and an alarm blared. What is happening? Kyle shouted, running down the stairs. Why did the line stop? The main generator seized up, a young engineer yelled, looking at his tablet in panic. The sensors are showing critical failure. Well, fix it. Kyle screamed. Reboot it. We tried, the engineer cried. The system isn't responding. Production had stopped completely. Every minute the machine was off, the company was losing $1,000. Kyle watched the clock. 10 minutes. $10,000 gone. 30 minutes. $30,000 gone. Kyle called in his team of young, fresh graduates. They stood around the machine with their laptops and tablets, reading the digital manuals. It says here to check valve C, one said. Valve C is fine, another said. Maybe it is the software? They replaced parts. They updated code. They kicked the tires. Nothing worked. Bertha sat there, cold and silent, mocking them. 3 hours passed. The company had lost nearly $200,000. Kyle's phone rang. It was the chairman of the board. Kyle, the chairman roared through the phone. Why is production zero? We have orders to ship. We have a slight technical difficulty, sir, Kyle stammered, sweating through his expensive suit. Fix it in 1 hour, the chairman warned. Or you are fired. Do you hear me? Fired. Kyle hung up the phone. His hands were shaking. He looked at his team of efficient young engineers. They looked helpless. Kyle realized he had only one option left. He swallowed his pride, which tasted very bitter, and dialed a number. Frank was sitting by a lake, holding a fishing rod. The sun was shining, and he was enjoying the first peaceful day he had had in years. His phone buzzed. He saw the caller ID and smiled. "Hello?" Frank answered calmly. "Frank." Thank God, Kyle's voice was frantic. "You have to come back." The machine stopped. Bertha stopped. "I am sorry to hear that," Frank said, reeling in his line. "But I don't work there anymore. Remember? I am obsolete." "Frank, please," Kyle begged. "We are losing a fortune. The manual isn't working. Nobody knows what to do." "Well," Frank said slowly, "I suppose I could come by as an outside consultant." "Yes." "Anything?" Kyle cried. "Just get here." "My consulting fee is a bit higher than my salary," Frank said. "I don't care," Kyle shouted. "Name your price." $50,000, Frank said. "Transferred to my account before I enter the gate." 50,000? Kyle gasped. "That is robbery." "Is it?" Frank asked. "How much are you losing every minute, Kyle?" Kyle looked at the silent factory floor. "Fine," Kyle whispered, defeated. "I am sending it now." 20 minutes later, Frank's old pickup truck pulled into the parking lot. He walked onto the factory floor wearing his fishing hat and holding his old toolbox. The young engineers parted like the Red Sea to let him through. Kyle ran up to him. "Hurry, Frank. Fix it." Frank didn't rush. He walked slowly around Bertha. He touched the cold metal. He put his ear against the main casing and listened to the faint hissing sound of the pressure release. He walked to a specific spot on the side of the massive engine. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, rubber mallet. The entire factory watched in silence. Frank raised the hammer and hit the machine. Whack. Just one single, sharp tap on a small, rusted pin. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a low hum began. The gears started to turn. The light stabilized. With a roar, Bertha came back to life. The conveyor belt started moving. The factory was running again. The workers cheered. They clapped and whistled for Frank. Kyle stood there, his mouth open in shock. "That's it?" Kyle asked, angry and relieved at the same time. "You just hit it with a hammer?" "Yep," Frank said, putting the hammer back in his pocket. "You charged me $50,000 to hit a machine with a hammer?" Kyle shouted. "That is a scam." Frank pulled out his old leather notebook and a pen. He scribbled something on a page, tore it out, and handed it to Kyle. "Here is your invoice," Frank said. Kyle looked at the paper. It read, "Hitting the machine with a hammer, $1. Knowing exactly where to hit it, $49,999. Machines don't care about your MBA degree, Kyle," Frank said, his voice echoing in the hall. "They care about the hands that built them." Just then, the chairman of the board walked in. He had flown in by helicopter to see the disaster. He saw the factory running. He saw Frank. And he saw the invoice in Kyle's hand. The chairman took the paper and read it. He looked at Kyle, then at Frank. "Frank," the chairman said warmly. "It is good to see you." "Good to see you too, sir," Frank nodded. "Kyle," the chairman said, his voice cold. "Pack your things. You fired the only person who knows how this business actually works." Kyle was escorted out of the building by the same security guards he had called on Frank. Frank was rehired that same day, with a significant raise and a new title, Chief Technical Advisor. He still uses his old leather notebook. And he still uses his rubber mallet. Because some things simply cannot be replaced by an app. Thank you for listening to this story on Life Sanctuary. It teaches us that we should never underestimate the value of a person who has mastered their craft. True expertise is not about knowing everything, it is about knowing the right thing. If you enjoyed this story of the expert's revenge, please like and subscribe for more. Until next time, respect the past so you can build a better future.